Hey everyone, it's Jaclyn. So today I want to film a tutorial on this makeup look. This is basically just like my updated go-to makeup look. It's what you guys see me wearing on Instagram stories and Instagram all the time. It's basically just like full glam, but still natural looking. A little bit of glow. Whoa, that was just an email that went through my Google Home. Anyways, I'm super excited to be working with Maybelline on this video with their foundation and concealer, so let's hop right into it. So I'm just going to start off by prepping my skin. So I've got some strobe cream here, which I like to use as a primer. It gives my skin a really nice finish and also just like a really nice smooth texture. So I always like to start by applying that all over the face, just blending it in with my fingers. But also, obviously, you want to make sure you have a good skincare routine going on. That's always very important. Then what I'm going to do too, speaking of prep, is make sure my lips are nice and moisturized. So I'm going to be using this Glossier CoconutBalm.com. You guys know this is one of my favorite lip balms of all time. I love it. It's so good. So yeah, just letting the lips marinate in that as well. Then I'm going in with the Maybelline Fit Me Foundation. This one is the matte and poreless one for normal to oily skin. Now I love, love, love the finish of this foundation because it does actually have micro powders inside that help blur your pores. And for me, I'm an acne prone gal, so texture is a huge concern for me. So I like how this foundation really sits on the skin and gives me that seamless, buttery finish. But again, since it is made for normal to oily skin, it's actually oil free, so it helps control your shine too. So if you guys are a shiny T-zone person like myself, then again, that's not a concern with this, which is really nice. So I'm just going to buff that out onto my skin using a sponge, making sure that it's all seamlessly blended down my neck as well. I really actually like the shade of this one too. Mine's in the shade 128 Warm Nude, and I really love the undertone because especially when I'm tan, like coming out of summer like I am right now, it really matches that golden undertone, which sometimes foundations can pull pink on me, but this one is my perfect shade, so that's also a huge, huge plus. I know this foundation range just added some shades, so now there's 40 shades, so there's definitely a color for everyone, which is awesome, so definitely worth checking out. Then for concealer, I'm going to go in with the matching pair. This is the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer, and mine is in the shade 20 Sand. Now this color is actually a bit lighter than the foundation because for my under eyes, I always like to go a bit brighter, just because it adds a bit more dimension to the face and it just brightens up my dark under eyes. I'm actually a huge fan of this formula because it is pretty full coverage even though it is a lightweight pigment, so it doesn't feel heavy. And if you see when I'm blending it out here, it blends like a dream. So it just makes applying it so much easier, and it really gives you that airbrushed kind of flawless finish that I know I'm always going for. So I'm also just taking whatever I have left over on my sponge and just kind of stamping that onto my eyelid as well. I kind of like to use it as like an eyelid primer. It just really preps the eye for the concealer, or for the eyeshadow that we're going to do later. So that's always something I don't skip over. I'm popping a little bit of that concealer just on my finger as well and just kind of gently pressing that over a blemish. I always like to start by using my finger. I find it just warms up the product a bit more, and then blend that out with a sponge as well. Okay, so to set the under eyes in place, I always like to use a loose powder. This one here is a Laura Mercier Translucent Loose Setting Powder. So I'm going to take that on a brush and just lightly set that under the eyes. I'm not going to do anything crazy like baking. I don't like to do that on an everyday basis. So just a light little wash of that and you'll be good to go. But then for the rest of my face, I'm going to be using the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder. This one's in the shade Medium. And I'm sorry all the packaging looks so grungy and so well loved, but these are literally the products I use every day. So they definitely look used, I can tell you that. So I'm just taking a really fluffy big brush and just kind of dusting that all over the face. I'm not worrying about setting it too much in place because I don't want to look too powdery. Then for bronzer, I'm going to go in with the Benefit Hoola Bronzer. Again, we're hidden pan because I love this bronzer. So I'm just going to start by warming up the cheeks. I always like to build my bronzer up gradually because, I mean, I do love bronzers, so I try not to go too heavy-handed initially. So building it up in slow layers, kind of focusing around the perimeter of the face, so going around the hairline, the cheek, and then under the jawline as well. Okay, and the new thing that I've been doing that I've been loving, especially for summertime, is taking the leftover bronzer and just kind of stamping that over my nose, kind of where you would naturally get like a sunburn. And I just find that this makes me look a lot more tanned, like more naturally tanned. And I also am going to do some fake freckles, so it just kind of goes along with that. Okay, now if you guys have been watching my videos for years, you'll know that I always have to take my bronzer and run that through the socket of my eye. I just find that it brings the whole look together, and it's something that I can't skip out on. So just on a fluffy blending brush, I'm just putting that through the crease and under the eye as well, just to really warm it up and, you know, add a bit of dimension back to the eyes. Okay, time for some eyebrows. To frame the face, I'm going to do the Benefit Precisely Made Brow Pencil. This one is in shade 4. Now, I've been using this brow pencil for a while. I just love the formula of it. And I'm going to start actually by tracing the underside of my brows. So I always like the bottom part of my brows to be the most defined and the most angular, and I keep the top a bit more fluffy and a little less defined. For some reason, I just find that looks a bit more natural on my face, but I definitely do like a bold brow. And again, we're just going to work up slowly in layers. I don't want to start with too much pressure in the brush or in the pencil just because it'll look too harsh and too drawn on. So just slowly feathering that product over and then blending it all out with a spoolie will make sure that it looks really natural. Now I have actually been loving doing an eyebrow gel as well. This one's just clear, it's from Benefit as well. And for some reason, this really just defines the individual hairs, like my actual eyebrow hairs, and it makes the eyebrows look way more natural and like naturally full. So I always go over top of that. And then of course they also just hold it in place, which is good. So that way nothing moves throughout the day. I know, another Benefit eyebrow product, but this one actually isn't for the eyebrows. Well, it is intended for the eyebrows, but I'm gonna be using it to draw on some fake freckles. So I'm actually gonna take the packaging, like the little end of that nub there, and dip that into the brow pomade. And I'm gonna kind of dot that onto my cheeks and onto the bridge of my nose and make that look like freckles. So you can use a brush to do this, but for some reason I just find that the end of this packaging works really good, so that's what I've been doing. So yeah, I just like to add a few little sun-kissed freckles to my face, and I actually like to deepen up any natural freckles that I have on my skin and just make them stand out a little more. Now it's time for blush, one of my favorite steps of makeup recently. Now this is just like a peachy, goldeny blush from NARS, and I'm gonna pop that right onto the apples of my cheeks. Now I do have very high cheekbones and a very wide face, so I do like to pull the blush back a little bit and lift it upwards on an angle, and I find that just kind of gives a little more definition and kind of makes the cheekbones stand out a little more. Okay, now moving on to my beloved Charlotte Tilbury cream eyeshadow. You guys know I live for the cream eyeshadow. This one in particular is actually new though. This is the Star Gold one. I normally use Betty, which is like a lighter gold, but this one's a bit more of like a rusty orange gold. And I just love the way that this looks on the eyes. I find it really makes blue eyes or lighter green eyes pop. So I'm just gonna start by applying that onto the lid of the eye and then blending it out into the crease. Now to set that in place, I'm going to be using the Charlotte Tilbury Bar of Gold. This one is actually a trio. I'm going to be taking the gold on the very far right. It's like the deepest, like bronziest gold. I'm going to pop that on a flat shader brush and just pop that on the center of my eyelid, just to give the eyeball a little more like definition. The eyelid a little more definition, and just make that shimmer pop a bit more. Ooh, this has been a new favorite step of mine recently as well. This is the MAC Dazzleshadow Liquid. And this is kind of like a liquid shadow, but it's super metallic and super foiled and really shimmery. So you only need a little bit of it, especially if you're going to be using it on the inner corner like I am. So I'm just popping some on and then blending it out. And then I'm also going to layer some powder highlight on top of that as well. So I've got the Becca Champagne Pop here. And yes, this looks like a mess. Again, very well loved. I use it all the time and I tragically dropped it. But I'm going to layer that over top on the inner corner as well as highlight the Cupid's bow. Now I love a very highlighted Cupid's bow, like I like it to be very defined. I just find that it makes the lips pop a bit more. And I'm going to highlight the cheeks as well. But for some reason actually I haven't been loving a crazy highlighted cheek, so I'm using a softer hand there and just kind of buffing that out. Then I'm going to take this eyeshadow. This one is Saddle from MAC, and it's just kind of like a matte pumpkin pie orangey brown color. And I love using this in the crease of my eye just to kind of warm it up and give a bit more definition and depth. It is a bit deeper than the bronzer shade that we used, so it will just kind of add a bit more shape to the eye. So I'm going to start by kind of roughly placing the color on the outer V of my crease. Lately what I've been loving to do is to take the eyeshadow and to take it up and outwards a bit further than I normally would. And I just find that kind of gives me more of an elongated, upturned cat eye shape, which I really find flattering. So it's kind of hard to explain, but hopefully from watching it, you can get an idea what I'm doing. So with the blending brush, I'm just kind of blending it outwards, following the same angle as like my cheekbones, but not going any further than the tail of my eyebrow. So it's just gonna kind of open them up and extend them, but you wanna make sure that you're really diffusing the product so that way it doesn't look too, harsh and too jarring. But yeah, the whole key with this eye look is to just really make sure that it looks soft and you're blending and blending and blending. So here I'm just taking a clean fluffy blending brush and just diffusing all of that pigment out, making sure that there's no harsh lines, and again, still kind of blending in the direction that I want the shape of the eye to kind of extend. Is that making sense? I feel like I'm being too wordy with this, but I hope you guys get it. Okay, moving on to another essential in my routine. This is the Marc Jacobs eyeliner. This one here is in a brown shade. But what I like to do is kind of smudge that onto the outer third of my lash line. It just kind of helps make the lashes look a bit fuller, but again, without looking too defined and too precise. So I'm just taking a little angled brush and just kind of smudging it out. And I am gonna, again, elongate my eye a little bit. And not really do like a cat eye, but more of like a kitten eye, and just do like a little baby wing and elongate it there. But again, we don't want it to be too harsh and too defined, so I am going to take a clean smudger brush and just kind of blend that out and make sure that it's really soft. Okay, now this part always is just so jarring, so I'm sorry, but I always have to put eyeliner on my upper tight line as well. Again, it just makes the lashes look so much more full and makes the eye look way more cohesive. Okay, now moving on to mascara. I've got the new NARS mascara here. Now I normally always use waterproof mascara just because I find that it holds the curl of my lashes a bit better, but I recently just got a lash lift, so I haven't been really too concerned about that. So I've been experimenting with different mascaras, and yeah, I actually really like this one. So I'm just doing one thin coat on the top lashes, nothing on the bottom today. Okay, time for lip liner. And yes, this is almost done. I've almost used it up because I love it that much. This is a Makeup Forever lip liner in 2C. Now this is probably my second most used lip liner of all time. The first one being Pillow Talk. You guys know I love that stuff. But I find when I am tanned and my skin tone is a bit darker, I do like to go for a darker lip liner. So this is the one that I go for. But yeah, so I'm just kind of overlining my lips. I do like to follow the perimeter of my natural lip line, but just go a little bit over and just cheat that a little bit. I do always like to top off my lip with a nice gloss. Now this one here is the Charlotte Tilbury Sweet Stiletto. And you guys have been asking a ton recently what I've been wearing on my lips. And for the past like 2 months, this has been my go-to. So if you were wondering, there you go. It's just kind of like a bright peachy pink color. And again, with a tan, I find it looks really flattering. Okay, and then just to finish everything off, I do like to use a setting spray. I've been using either the All Nighter from Urban Decay or MAC Fix Plus, but that's basically it. So there you go, that is my finished makeup look. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. It's very glowy, still kind of natural though, even though it is a full face of makeup. But yeah, make sure you guys let me know down below in the comments which videos you guys want to see next from me. Other than that, make sure you guys subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!